Welcome to I Heart Geek.
Hey, guys, it's another episode of I Heart Geek. Woo!
Woo-hoo-hoo.
And today, we're going to be talking about the big green mean. It's not really mean. Okay. We'll throw him in. We'll talk about him too, but we're really going to be talking about She-Hulk.
Woo!
That's right, listeners. We're going to talk about episode 1 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. And joining me is Belize and Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Are you guys excited?
So stoked. Waiting for this one for a good while now. So
Yup.
very excited to be talking about it finally.
I'm a She-Hulk girl from way back. Kevin, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. It's been a busy week. I love She-Hulk. It's right up there with shows that I can watch with my daughter, so it's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Wise, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. They just keep pumping out these Marvel shows just left and right. Keep them coming. I'm loving it, man.
Me too. So on that note, why don't we just dive right in? It was a short one, clocking in at 36 minutes, Blythe?
I think at 36 with credits. So you're probably
and there was an end credit scene, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have not watched, if you didn't stick around for the end credit scene, you missed probably the funniest scene of the show.
Well, and realistically, it is one of the most important end credit scenes of all Marvel. The entire MCU. One of the most important. Question we all had, and we know now. We finally know.
Yes. And even Captain America himself weighed in on that with an extremely hilarious emoji tweet. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's get into it. Let's talk about the very first thing that differs a little bit from her origin in the comic books. Is how she got her powers. I have been reading She-Hulk since the 80s. Not when she first came out, but like late 80s. I've been reading her for a long time, and she's one of my absolute favorite characters. And as the resident She-Hulk lover of the group, I'm perfectly fine with the way that they changed her, how she got her powers. It works for me. Blythe, what are your thoughts on that? If you want to explain everybody how she gets them, and then we can talk about how they differ from the actual comic book.
Sure. So they, in the original comic book series, she is prosecuting a mob boss, and one of his henchmen come and he shoots her after they wrap up the case. Kind of almost like what we see in like Batman series and stuff like that. They're prosecuting, and then the prosecuting lawyer gets shot. So once she gets shot, the only one that is in the vicinity at the moment is her good old cousin Bruce Banner, who gives her a blood transfusion. And after that blood transfusion, she becomes the Savage She-Hulk.
Savage She-Hulk.
So we have the same kind of process of the transfer of blood in this origin. But it's not from a gunshot. It's more from a car crash. So, we open up with that, or we don't open up with that. We actually open up with a fourth wall break, which came right out the gate, which was crazy. But I was okay with this origin story. This origin story, it worked for what they did. It wasn't. I can see why they kind of stayed away from that original origin story, just because that would have taken up a lot more time. This was just kind of, it happened. And Kevin, I know you were pleasantly surprised because we had a lot of questions going into this origin story that were answered right off the bat. One, specifically about her cousin.
Well, for one, Bruce in this MCU generation would not be giving his blood to anybody. He knows what it does. He knows that it. So, and we were questioning on, well, wait a second. If Hulk gets into a car crash, he would instantly turn into Hulk. One of the most touching scenes from the first Avengers is whenever he's like, hey, I try to shoot myself in the face, and then the other guy spits it out like that. You felt that. And so while you're watching some of the trailers, you're seeing the car spin around. You're like, wait a second, what's going on? And I love how they explained it. Is that he has Stark Tech that is helping him keep his self in check, and that's why he's back into Bruce again. But it damaged itself, so then he started hulking out. But I appreciate that. I like her origin now. The way they did it in MCU, it makes sense. And kudos to them for doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't mind it because she theoretically is still getting her powers exactly the same way that she did in the comic books. She gets it from a blood transfusion. It's just in a different kind of a way. And so I'm perfectly fine with that. I love it. Now, one thing I will say, because I know there's been a lot of controversy on the internet about the fourth wall breaks. So I'm going to say it once and one time only, listeners, and I'm not going to say it again. But I'm going to say it really loud. She-Hulk broke the fourth wall before Deadpool ever did. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. She-Hulk walked so Deadpool could run. So I don't want to hear any comments under our YouTube channel or our Facebook with all of you saying, I don't like him because Deadpool's the only one that does it. No, sons. He is not. Anyways, moving on.
One thing I want to say before we move on from that origin story is it gives me hope to see Tim Blake Nelson return as the leader, because the same thing happened to him in the Incredible Hulk movie from way back when he hit his head, cut it, and then you just see the Hulk blood drip into his mind, and then his brain starts to bubble. So now that we know that the kind of the Hulk power set can be transferred via drops of blood in a cut, I want to see him back. I wanted to see the leader in the MCU for a long time now, so I'm hoping we can see the return of him at some point.
Good catch. So, she hulks out for the first time and doesn't know what she's doing. We don't see anything quite yet. She ends up at a dive bar where she goes into the bathroom. She's a complete and total wreck. One thing I want to mention, because Tyler's not here to tell us, so I will go ahead and tell everybody. There's a QR code on the wall of the dive bar right before she goes into the bathroom, and it takes you to Savage She-Hulk #1, 1980, her debut comic, and you can read it for free on Marvel.com. So click that QR code and you can watch her origin story, which is right here on the wall.
One thing I appreciated about her first transformation is it had the feel of a werewolf transformation, like back in the early cinema, where you don't really see, you kind of see it, and then all of a sudden you see from her viewpoint, it was like the beginning of the werewolf transformation. So I just like that little touch.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed about it is because it's almost a callback to the original Savage She-Hulk. Because in the Savage She-Hulk run, when she first came out, she couldn't control it. She had no control. She was just like Bruce. She had no control. She would just Hulk out and then a lot of times forget what she did. And so the first time she does it, it gives you that feel, but then they kind of go into that Dan Slott and that Jim Ryan run where she can go back and forth. So there's a lot of that callback nature of it, which I'm really digging too. The lovely ladies help her out, and then she waits for her cousin when she proceeds to Hulk out again. But we don't get to see it, which I think is done on purpose, and I really dig that. What did you guys think of that scene? That we don't actually get to see her Hulk out quite yet.
It gave me some real Moon Knight vibes.
Yeah.
Since that's what we saw throughout the entire course of Moon Knight was him just blanking out, and then something savage happened, but you never actually get to see it. So I'd like to think that those guys were just ripped to bits.
I don't know if she'd go that far, but you know what? If that's what you want, go for it. I'm not gonna take it away. Kevin, how about you?
I liked it because she couldn't control it, and if you can't control it, then you don't remember. Bruce didn't remember anything that happened whenever he was transferred. He's just now, because there's a meld, the mind meld, right? When there's a meld between the both of them now, where he can remember certain things that's happened. But right at this point, she can't. So I think it's a nice touch. I really do.
And on that kind of leads us into the next section, which is almost like her montage of training with Bruce. They even set it up that they're not the same kind of Hulk. They are a different kind of Hulk. Bruce says it where there's two people inside of him, where in her they're just one. There's Jennifer and She-Hulk. They are the same person. And so that kind of takes Bruce aback a little bit, I think, because he's not really sure how to handle that. And so I think that that's a really interesting way that they did it. So because it also leads us into one, we can see that she's different because of all of the training montage that she does. She can throw the boulders harder. She could do the yoga a little bit better. And the sibling, I know that they're cousins, but the sibling rivalry, the familial connection is really in that scene a lot, where they fight, but they love each other. And then that leads into the big Hulk fight. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in that montage area. One is the question. One, we now know what Tony was doing during the blip. Or part of the blip. He was building a bar with Bruce. So let's talk about the training montage. What did you guys think about that? So I know that there's been some people saying, "Oh well, Hulk stronger." I don't think it was about Hulk being stronger. It was about her learning how to be a Hulk. So let's get your thoughts, Kevin. What do you think about the training montage, the Rocky montage?
It makes sense, right? Like these people. First of all, people just like to complain and complain. I'm so tired of people just complaining just to hear their loud voice. It's outrageous, but it makes sense in the context of the type of Hulk she is, because she's not just a raging Hulk smash. No, she is. I'm fully aware right now of what's going on, so I can do some really cool stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's what I got out of that. I already been doing yoga. Wow, look at the cool moves I can do now because I'm super strong, and because there's a meld there, and yeah, it just makes sense. Like obviously, well, here's the thing with both the Hulks is that there is no ceiling to their power. It's just how mad they get. So I mean, you can't really one Hulk stronger than the other Hulk. No, it's just the power of the Hulk, basically. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Right?
Yep. I really liked this bit because it gives you, and that's one of the things I love about these Disney Plus shows. Is these Disney Plus shows are dropping little details that are unnecessary in a movie. So the fact that we know that Tony came to this island and helped Bruce set up this whole like base of operations, we got that in Age of Ultron, where they were the science bros. That's what the community called them back then, because they had this just kind of friendship that you knew was there. And now you know that extended even further than the Avengers. So when the blip happened and there was sparing people around, those two are the ones that met up on this island. And you know that they had like those moments in each other. Like it was more than just them building that base of operations. It was them being able to get through the blip together. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. As far as go ahead, Kevin.
Well, and speaking of them being the science bros, Iron Man's damaged helmet being there, I think that's a nice touch, and you can tell that it meant a lot to him.
Yeah,
we don't know which helmet that is, but it means a lot to him. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it
looked to me like it was one of the Sentry helmets from when Ultron took over the Iron Man sentries at like when they're at the party. To me, it looked like that. It looked like that was almost like a trophy room, because it wasn't just that helmet. You saw he had like a big club that looked like it could have been something that he brought back from Sakaar.
Really? I didn't look around the room.
Yeah, if you look around the room, I bet you, even if I only caught like little glimpses of stuff, but there was like a big, like bony looking axe like in the table. There was the helmet on the stand right there. So it almost looked like that was a little like his own little trophy room. I wonder if there's even more in that room that I didn't catch.
Speaking of Sakaar, we forgot the the spaceship in the room. The spaceship comes down, and that is what causes the car crash. Blythe and I are pretty sure that's going to be Scar, who is the Grandmaster's son. Is that right? If I remember,
It's Hulk's son.
That's the Hulk
Hulk's
son.
son.
His
That's right.
son,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Hulk's son with yes. So we believe that that's probably going to be Scar's ship.
Yeah.
We're likely
There's
not
so
going
much.
to find out for a while. There's 9 episodes, so we'll see what happens. But we're pretty sure that's what's going to be going on there.
And they
now,
even
one thing
call it out as being Sicarian. So
Yeah,
he
they
says
talk
it's
about
like
it
a
being Sicarian.
class 1A Sicarian ship. So he knows someone from Sakaar is
Mhm.
there and trying
Mhm.
to find him or reach out to him or something. It's just a matter of who it is. So
Well, there's
And
definitely a power vacuum at Sakaar right now. You know,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah,
a power
absolutely.
vacuum. Another power has to fill it up. So
mhm.
Well, and one thing that this means is if listeners, if it is Scar, if it is him, then that could very well be the way that Marvel is going to usher in World War Hulk, which could be something that we see starting or very much mentioned in this series because it's a good place to stick it. One thing I do want to comment on, because it is something that I've again seen a lot of, but mainly from the females in the nerddom world that we live in, is the scene where he talks about she needs to learn to control her anger, and she pretty much tells him we have to control, as females, we have to control our anger at all times. As a woman, I completely felt that down into the bottom of my bones because it is very true. I really liked that was how they explain why she can shift back and forth and why she can control it, and what it's just another thing that makes her different from the Hulk. I mean, Bruce can control it now. We know that. But at first he couldn't. But that's why right off of the get-go, she can control her shifts because she's had a lot of practice controlling her anger. And so I liked that was the way that they explained this is why I can control my shifts, because I'm angry all the time. And I like it, you know.
That's her secret, Cap.
Exactly. And you know what, it almost sort of harkens back to the old Hulk show with Bruce Boxleiter and Lou Ferrigno, because the tagline for this, which I realize now there's a lot of kids in the Marvel fandom who don't know this, but the tagline used to be, kids, Bruce used to say to people, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. And so it kind of harkens back to that a little bit. And they even use it in the trailer for her show. So I really kind of dug that part. And Kevin, as a girl dad, what did you think of that?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it's something that she's still young yet, but I try to instill in her ideas and thoughts, you know, preparing her for that stuff. Like, you can do anything. But the one thing when you said that and while that was going on, there is a right way and a wrong way to do inclusion, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel has been hitting it out of the park. With Moon Knight, they did Egypt right. They were showing you people and they were showing you Egyptians and the city and the lore the right way. And how I know that is that Egyptians were they liked it. You know, you have Miss Marvel done the Pakistani the right way, and Islam the right way, and then She-Hulk. And I really appreciate that. They're doing it, and it's not exploitative. It's not too much. It's like, no, these are just real people, and this is the way it is, and that's the way it should be.
Agreed. It's not in your face, and it's not, here, look what we're doing. Look what we're doing. It's just, here you go. Have this.
They're real people. Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So that leads us into the big Hulk fight all across the island where they're beating the snot out of each other. I laughed my hiney off because I've been in fights with I have a younger brother, and when we were kids we used to fight all the time, and it really reminded me of those kinds of fights. Yeah. And then when they destroy the bar, it was pretty good too. And that gave us another really great fourth wall break in that. And the fun part was Bruce even responded to the fourth wall break a little bit. So, Blythe, what did you think of that?
Yeah, you definitely see the confusion. Well, and that's her what's interesting about that scene is at the beginning of the show, she immediately breaks the fourth wall because she's telling us this is my origin story, because if I don't tell you now, you're just going to be asking the whole time. So, but in the origin story, that fourth wall break was her first fourth wall break.
Mm-hmm.
So since she got the powers, that was her first time realizing that there's somebody watching her that nobody else can see, because you can see the confusion in her face.
Mm-hmm.
She says it and she's like, why did I just say that? And then he looks at her and he's like, what just, like, they both are just like, what just happened? So that was a really cool way of doing that. And I love the fight scene because it's not just her this whole origin story is not just her struggles. It's also Bruce's. Like that whole the whole time where she's talking to him about why she can control her anger and how she's doing it and things like that. All of that is led up to by him pushing what he thinks is the proper way to do this, because he's dealt with it for so long. And he's jealous. He's jealous of her.
He even says it.
Yeah, it's taken her. Yeah, he's like, is this jealousy I'm feeling? Like, what is this? So you can see it in his face for a lot of the time where he's having this internal struggle of like her trying to tell him that how it's going, and him just being like, no, I've been doing this for so long. This is how it's supposed to go. But he finally gets there. But they did a really good job of making Bruce still the main kind of character that he has been coming up into the show. Like this is her show, but this was both of their like story being told in this moment.
Yeah, it helped move his character along even more, which is really very, very rad. Very rad. Well, and that leads us this fight leads us into going to back, leaps us forward. She's back in her real world in New York. She's getting ready to try a case. She's a public defender. And we know at some point in time that's going to change, probably based on who we see in the courtroom scene. So let's jump into the courtroom scene. There are some interesting, I don't know if we should call them Easter eggs or not, but they're kind of Easter eggs because we don't really know who they are unless, you're a nerd, a real severe nerd. So let's talk about the really big thing. This is going to be the first time she hulks out in front of other people. Nikki, her paralegal, knows who she is anyways and knows that she has that other side of her. This will be the first time she hulks out in public, but it's also the first time that we meet her big nemesis from the comic books, Titania. And from what I've been reading, it says we actually aren't going to see Titania again until episode 5.
Really?
So, yeah. Now, whether that is true or it's a rumor, I don't know. It's something I read the other day that says we're not going to see her again until episode 5. That would still give us 4 episodes to meet her. And I'm really excited with the casting of Titania. I think she was a really good choice. And listeners, if you're not aware, Titania ostensibly has the same kind of power set that She-Hulk has. She is extremely strong and powerful, and they pretty much kick each other's butt all over the universe in her comic book run. So let's talk a little bit about that courtroom scene. I know that Tyler, and I believe Ryan, who's also been on the show, did not really like the quote unquote fight between Titania and She-Hulk. Let's touch on that a little bit. I'm gonna turn it on to Kevin. Kevin, what do you think?
I harken back to what Bruce said earlier. He goes, "Hey, your best friend is spandex. She didn't listen to him. She has the suit on. She should have had some kind of spandex suit on, but that's neither here nor there. I love how she took off her shoes because you don't want to mess those up.
Lady shoes are expensive, man.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've heard some things like, oh, it was too comical. It was too this. It was the first time that she's having a fight. It's the feel of the show. Yeah, it's fun. I don't really have anything good or bad to say it. I'm interested in Titania. I was hoping, and we just still don't know. I was hoping it to do more with Doctor Doom later on. Maybe we find out because her origin story is she was created by Doctor Doom, which would be a really interesting way in the next couple episodes if they harken back to that. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun fight. She just kind of came out of nowhere, and why?
Yeah.
So hopefully
Yeah.
they tell that
Yeah.
too.
One thing I will say, Blaze, and then I'll turn it over to you, is when she stands up, we see her full Hulk out. That actually is a shot that's taken from one of her comic book covers. The outfit is completely from one of her comic book covers. It's actually one that Daredevil shows up in. Anyways, Blaze, what were you going to say?
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Kevin was saying about like Doom being like mentioned or show up or something in the future. I think this is something that I know Tyler wanted to touch on, and that was the potential that this show has to seed a lot of stuff that could be coming up in the MCU, whether it be her doing research for a case that she's going to have in the future and we see different headlines being mentioned, or she's flipping through documentation of who she may be defending, and it's like man breaks into store using laser vision or this and that, and it could just be you could see this is the show to do it. This is the show to see that these characters exist within the universe, and we don't need to see them necessarily, but we know that they're there, and we know that they could show up at any point, and they've been there this entire time.
Well, this is where we're going to flesh out the actual world that's going on right now. We hinted at, it's your blood is mutated. No. But what does that actually mean? And I think that's where we're going to start. You're going to start seeing this. I mean, the trailer, some of the stuff that they show, was that a man bear pig in one of the trailers? I don't know. So I'm excited about that. And you're right. This is the show to do it in. It's not going to take itself too seriously.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is you have to remember with She-Hulk, the interesting thing about her history is she has been a member of multiple teams. She was the leader of the A-Force. She's been a member of the Fantastic Four. She was also part of the West Coast Avengers. So I mean, she has the background potential to pull in lots of different characters from all over, because she's been part of those teams over that entire time. And I mean, that leads you back into your Doctor Doom theory, because she was a part of the Fantastic Four for a good while. So I mean, there's always that option that these things can be pulled in the way that Blythe just talked about, where it's like just a little subtle hint in there. Because we all know at this point in time, Marvel is extremely good about dropping these tiny little hints that you have to pay attention to. I mean, at the very beginning, when she walks into that dive bar, there's a giant sign in the background that says Roxxon, which is a huge conglomerate that's a big, important part of the Marvel universe. And so, I mean, these little things are here and there, peppered here and there, as like gifts to say, hey, check out, we may be using this later on. We may get somewhere with this. So that's a really great way to look at it. And especially since we know we're also going to get Daredevil. Daredevil is showing up. It's confirmed. Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. He was in the trailer. We know it's him. Titania Mosley has talked about how great it is to work with him. We're getting Daredevil. So, I mean, there's the Daredevil aspect that comes in as well. So, I mean, this show has the potential to pull in a lot of things from a lot of different places. And I really kind of dig that. Now, the guy that is in the courtroom that is at the other side is on the defense side. The older gentleman, he actually is Holden Hollowell. Holden Hollowell is the one that actually recruits She-Hulk to become part of the law firm that defends superheroes. So, I mean, we're going to see him again as well. There's a lot of little stuff in this that, if you know about it, it's amazing. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, because again, it's Marvel giving stuff to the people that are familiar with the background, but you're not missing anything if you're not. if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Mhm.
So
Well, that's what's fun about it. That's what becomes fun about it. I think sometimes
Mhm.
people start taking this Marvel stuff way too seriously. At the end of the day, it's comic books. You know, it's superhero
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
yeah, and
It's all
and the
pretend.
thing is, and the thing is with Marvel, it really is anybody can sit down and watch these and enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have the background. If you do, there's a lot of extra fun goodies for you, but you don't have to have the background. Like my mom asked me the other day, she's like, "Is Moon Knight good? Should I watch Moon Knight?" She knows nothing about Moon Knight whatsoever, and I said it's great. She goes, "Okay, good, I'm going to watch it." But she won't. The little secretive things that they give you, you're not. She doesn't need to know, but if she does, it makes it even better.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about all of these. And that let's get some final thoughts on this episode. It is our pilot episode. And let's do our good old grading system of A to F. Let's start off with Blythe. What's your score and your final thoughts on She-Hulk? And what are you looking forward to in the next coming episodes?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a B right off the bat. We'll see what is to come. I think my biggest scare for this show is that it becomes a bit too cheeseball. I was a little worried when the trailers were coming out about how kind of the aesthetic was going to hold, because this one's a long one. Normally we get 6. This one's 9. So it's going to be a little bit longer. I hope that they just don't go a little bit too much into that realm of kind of like, I don't know, like that Ally McBeal type feel. And that's just because it's not my genre, you know? And that's the one thing that we've talked about with these Marvel shows coming out, is that they're branching out into so many different genres. Like you were saying, Courtney, there's something there for everyone. If you watch Miss Marvel, if you're like a teenager, it's not too much going on with it. You watch Moon Knight if you like the dark, gritty stuff. You watch She-Hulk if you like the Law and Order, Ally McBeal type feel shows and things like that. So, that's my only hesitation with that, with not giving it an A right off the bat. I did enjoy it. What I want to see in the future is kind of what we just talked about. I want to see I want to see little hints, little seeds here and there. I want to see I love watching the universe expand. I want to see little droplets here, because I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but when Thor Love and Thunder came out, I left the theater on the first viewing being like, I don't like this movie. And it was because I didn't feel like there was any more world building in which Kevin talked me down off of that ledge, and I went and saw it again, and then I enjoyed it the second time a lot more. But yeah, that's what I want. I would just want to see the universe kind of be built out more, because I love that. That's what my the best thing about the MCU is how the universe is ever expanding.
Kevin, how about you, man?
I think this is the show that's going to build out the universe more so than any of the other ones. I really do. I'm going to go with a B as well. My one big qualm for this show, as well as all the other Marvel shows, except for save like one, was they need to release either one big episode or 2 episodes at the 30-minute mark. It's just not enough. It's like so I don't even know really how I feel about the show yet. You know what I mean? It just wasn't enough for me to even grasp it. It's a new genre, a new superhero, a whole new set. We haven't seen any of these people save for Hulk. And then it was only for 30 minutes. So that's kind of my little kick on it, is that it just wasn't enough. But I'm excited. I'm enjoying. I think I'm going to enjoy where it's going. I think this is going to be our comedy. This is going to be our, like you said, the Ally McBeal courtroom. And I want to see how crazy it's actually going to get. I really do. Let's do it. Let's ham it up.
I'm with you guys. I'm going to give it a B. For a lot of the same reasons. I mean, it was only 30 something minutes.
Yeah.
it did leave me wanting more, which I'm sure was part of the reason I was so sharp. But for the reasons that Kevin said, is like I need more of what's going on. I enjoyed what I was given a lot, so that's why it's got the B. I'm really interested in where it's going. Same reasons that Bly said. I hope it doesn't go too. I mean, and I love a cheeseball, Jim Bryan kind of fourth wall breaking She-Hulk, but there's a fine line that they're going to have to be walking as they go through this whole series. I think they're going to do it. I think that line is going to be right where it needs to be, but I hope it doesn't go too far into the goofiness, because they'll even lose me, the hardcore She-Hulk fan. So what I'm looking forward is to seeing where it's going, to seeing if we get those seeds, and I'm also really looking forward to seeing Daredevil. Yep. Because I love Daredevil, and I really love Charlie Cox as Daredevil, because I think he's just perfect casting as Daredevil. So I'm glad we're getting more Daredevil back.
Yeah.
So that makes the show. One thing I will say, listeners, if you have no experience with She-Hulk at all and you want to learn a little bit more, take a look at the Dan Slott run and also the Jim Bryan run of these. Those two will give you the best background. You can read the original Savage She-Hulk, of course, but those two seem to be the two predominant lines that they are kind of pulling from for this show, or that's my impression thus far, that's where it is. The caveat with that is you don't have to read it to enjoy it, but if you're interested, those are the two lines that I would say go ahead and give it a chance and check her out. Probably got them on Comixology. You could probably get them at your local comic book store. I'm sure there's a run on She-Hulk comics right now at the local comic book store. But that is my suggestion. If you really want to read, those are the ones. And give us any likes, comments, questions that you've got. Go ahead and add them onto our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. We love to answer questions, and we love to hear from you in comments-wise. And so you'll want to also check us out on all of our social media, TikTok, Instagram, all those socials. Check us out, and also check us out online at iHeartGeekShow.com, because why not? And that's a show. And with me, as always, is Blythe and Kevin. And keep on geeking on, you guys. And remember, Hulk smash!
Captain America.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.